4 years ago, Roman Reigns sat at the head of a table and declared himself the greatest tribal chief this dynasty had ever produced. He demanded acknowledgment. He demanded loyalty. He constructed an entire faction identity around the promise that those who gave him both would receive his protection in return. For 4 consecutive years, that promise powered the most sustained narrative in professional wrestling. Then Monday Night Raw happened. Roman stood in front of the world, draped black Ula Falas around the necks of 2 men who required ringside interference just to pin someone 7 days earlier, and looked directly past the most physically devastating presence in his entire faction without a syllable in his direction. Jacob Fatu executed every act of violence Roman requested. Jacob Fatu walked away with nothing. Now the man who shaped this dynasty long before Roman ever wore a lei is preparing to say something that 4 years of tribal chief mythology never equipped Roman to respond to. You do not preach family, and then discard it the moment family stops being useful to you. Welcome to Tidal Wave, the channel that excavates the real narrative buried beneath the surface of what you watched on Monday night. I am your host, and today we are not analyzing a routine post-Raw reaction. We are examining what occurs when the philosophical foundation of the most dominant faction storyline in modern WWE history gets publicly exposed as hollow by the man positioned at its very summit. Before we get all the way into Rikishi's warning and precisely what it signals for Roman Reigns going forward, understand the context that makes this moment bigger than it appears. The disrespect aimed at Jacob Fatu on August 17th was not a standalone incident. It was the 3rd time Roman Reigns has extracted maximum value from Fatu's power while declining to reciprocate the dignity that power earned. Stay with this video completely through, because the 3rd act of any pattern is where the story permanently changes direction. Here is the full picture of what August 17th in Buffalo genuinely represented beneath its surface drama. Roman Reigns has spent months constructing situations that strategically benefit his position while methodically eroding the standing of every Anoa, a family member in proximity, from engineering the finish at Backlash 2026 to retain the World Heavyweight Championship against Fatu, to arriving at Raw explicitly to publicly humiliate Solo Sikoa in front of a global audience. On Monday, he pointed Fatu at Solo like a calibrated instrument, super kick on command, Tongan death grip deployed with mechanical obedience, Solo neutralized, and then pivoted directly to elevating the Usos without casting a single glance toward the corner where Fatu still stood. This is not accidental. Roman identifies pressure points with precision and has consistently engineered outcomes, leaving those around him diminished while he ascends. What he miscalculated is that repeatedly deploying that approach against members of the Anoa'i bloodline, with cameras running and millions watching, would eventually generate a response from somewhere his political leverage cannot reach. Now, if Tidal Wave has been delivering the kind of structural bloodline analysis that nothing else in your feed comes close to touching, subscribe right now. Hit that notification bell because this story is shifting rapidly and we will not be slowing down for anyone arriving late. Subscribe, stay locked into this video, and let us get into the dimension of this situation that fundamentally separates real analysis from surface recaps. Here is what distinguishes Rikishi's warning from every other form of external commentary currently circulating about the bloodline. The Off the Top podcast has operated as a consistent real-time response to WWE's handling of this family, with Rikishi addressing developments, defending Fatu publicly, and delivering his positions without diplomatic softening when the situation demands directness. But the element most observers chronically undervalue is the authority from which Rikishi speaks. He is not a journalist with sources or a pundit with takes. He is the patriarch, the man whose generation of this family pride opened the door that Roman Reigns walked through. Calling out Roman's treatment of Fatu is considerably easier when you were drawing arenas in this industry before Roman Reigns had a signature finisher. When Rikishi addresses how Roman handles Jacob Fatu, he is not contributing an opinion to a conversation. He is issuing a corrective from a position whose seniority in this bloodline predates Roman's authority within it. Roman can ignore individual reactions. He cannot ignore what a patriarch's public intervention does to the carefully constructed image of a man claiming to embody family values while systematically discarding family members when they cease serving his agenda. Here is precisely where the internet wrestling community has this entirely inverted. The loudest reaction online frames this as generational sentiment. A proud elder feeling protective of a younger family member, warm but ultimately inconsequential. That reading is analytically negligent. Roman Reigns built the tribal chief persona around one foundational covenant, that loyalty inside this family earns recognition. That covenant is the currency his entire character trades in. The Ula Fala is not costuming. It is a promise made public. And when Rikishi puts Roman on notice about disrespecting Fatu, he is not questioning Roman's physical dominance or his title reign or his creative positioning. He is challenging the singular thing Roman's character cannot survive having publicly questioned, the validity of his word. And the most destabilizing dimension of that challenge is its timing. Roman just rebuilt his bloodline. He just restored his faction's credibility in Buffalo. And Rikishi just identified the thread that, if pulled, dismantles the entire argument. A tribal chief whose promises are entirely conditional on the recipient's usefulness is not a tribal chief. He is a strategist wearing family loyalty as protective armor. And Rikishi just pointed directly at the gap between those two things. Roman Reigns' psychological architecture since his return has operated on a single sustained premise. He is the most strategically sophisticated presence occupying any situation around him. He demonstrated that at Backlash, manufacturing precisely the kind of chaos that fractured Fatu's composure and exploited his passion against him. But the one variable his chess-level manipulation has never successfully neutralized is the voice operating entirely outside his board. He cannot challenge Rikishi in a promo. He cannot hold a championship as leverage. He cannot restructure a booking decision to silence what a family elder states publicly. Which makes it genuinely remarkable. The man who spent 4 years constructing a kingdom around mandatory acknowledgement just provided someone with zero obligation to stay quiet every justification they needed to speak at full volume. Here is the verdict. Roman Reigns overlooking Jacob Fatu on August 17th was not a power demonstration. It was a liability he constructed inside his own infrastructure. And Rikishi warning Roman directly about that oversight is not a retired performer overreaching his relevance. It is a patriarch clarifying that certain boundaries existed long before the first Ula Fala, long before tribal combat, and long before Roman Reigns invented a title for himself that his own family never voted on. Subscribe to Tidal Wave right now and drop your prediction in the comments below. Does Roman Reigns address the Fatu situation before it becomes a full structural implosion? Or does the tribal chief's pride cost him the one irreplaceable asset his rebuilt bloodline cannot function without? That conversation belongs in the comments section right now. And stay right here, the next video charts exactly where this fracture leads, and the destination is considerably more volatile than anyone currently anticipates.